Every person has two wolves inside them, constantly at desperate odds with each other, fighting ferociously and viciously. One is, I'm gonna buy this game now because I really want to play it, and I'm totally gonna do that. And the other is, game collecting. I have over 100 game backlog. Yeah, these are some really long names for wolves. Game collecting. Whether you're interested in jumping in and dipping your foot in the water, or you're a newer collector, I'm gonna tell you some tips that I wish I knew before getting into the hobby. Number one is you in fact do not have to collect everything. This is something that I fell into very, very early on in my collecting career? Hobby? Any game, anything with games on it, I grabbed and held on to. And while I did get some cool stuff that I still have today, a fair bit was for games and series I don't really play or enjoy much at all. You don't have to like every game genre like JRPGs or shooters because others do. And you certainly don't have to collect or buy games you know you won't enjoy. It's perfectly okay to focus on games you love or any console you love, and it doesn't make your collection any less cool. The best part of game collecting is that everyone has different tastes and focus. In the words of my buddy Diskcart, collect what you love. And check out his channel if you want to set your collection up in a bunch of fantastic ways, and see a bunch of fantastic displays. Number two is keep your housing and living situation in mind when it comes to your collection. Let me tell you a story. There was once a goober who in her high school year knew before she had to move out collected 3 giant standees. And when she had to move out, the standees were transported closet to closet like vagabonds riding in a train to purgatory because they are massive and inconvenient. It's me,
an idiot sandwich.
I'm that goober. My best advice is to avoid the big collectibles if you know you're going to be moving soon, or you know that the place that you're staying now is not the place that you want to stay permanently. They are a big hassle and will probably get damaged in the process, which, if you're like me, may hurt your heart a little bit. Focus on the small stuff for the time being, and then get the big stuff when you know you're going to be there for a while. And I'm not saying don't get them. Definitely get them, especially if you can find them at a good deal. I know the standees are getting harder and harder to find for certain games, but I'm just saying, if I could go back to the past me, I would have said, hey sis, wait just a minute. Those are going to be a pain in the ass to move later. Number 3 is don't spend beyond your means, and don't get too overwhelmed by duplicates. I mean this less in the obvious sense that obviously don't spend money that you don't have, but more so, I know that finding deals in the hustle and bustle of buying games and selling and trading them can be a lot of fun, but don't do it to the point where you're drowning in duplicate games that you don't want. Obviously, you know what you can afford money-wise, but also time-wise in listing and trading games is a long process and can be hard to manage, especially if you get angry customers. Just be careful to keep it manageable and try to get rid of those items that you don't want as soon as possible to keep your collection space tidy and to keep yourself from getting too overwhelmed. Unless, of course, you're waiting for a value increase. We all know that those Pokemon games get crazy after a while. Next one at number 4 is that eBay is typically top dollar, while secondhand and garage sales are typically going to be your best bet for deals. If you're looking for deals, eBay can be like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's great for specifics, but usually you can find stuff cheaper secondhand, especially if you aren't big on condition. However, eBay does have a money-back guarantee, and usually the seller takes a decent picture so you can see condition. But for the most part, as long as you can see a game in person secondhand before you buy it and try it out, it's usually the cheapest way to buy games. I'm talking garage sales, thrifting, estate sales, and pawn shops. Sometimes even bookstores have goodies too. Of course, going the deal route is getting harder and harder with more people getting into the hobby, but if you're patient, you can usually find some pretty cool stuff. Number 5 is join specific groups for the specific consoles that you do collect for, and don't get too hung up on the consoles that you're not really interested in. If you have an attachment to a certain brand like Xbox or Nintendo, or a certain system like the Dreamcast or the PSP, it may help to join a specialty group on Facebook for that console, so you're placed with people just selling and hunting for that. Some groups can be huge, and if it's just gaming themed in general, that can be anything from a Switch case to a Halo statue, which isn't handy if you're only trying to collect Game Boy Color games. Those specific collector groups can be fantastic for finding those specifics that you're looking for. They're also great for looking out for Play Asia and limited run releases of certain consoles, like for me, the PS Vita. This kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, but I'm throwing it in here anyways just because it was something that I typically fell into, but you don't have to buy into the hype. Even if something is technically limited edition or limited version, sometimes it'll end up being much more common and cheaper later. You don't have to buy into the hype. Sure, a lot of collectors buy different colored Switches or PS4s, but if you don't really want it and are only thinking about it because you saw other collectors have it, be careful not to fall into the hype train. It can be a costly mistake, especially early on, to buy everything. It's a lot to move, and limited editions and collector's versions of special versions of game stuff can mainly just be buzzwords to make you think that stuff is scarcer than it is. Just collect what you want and what you like. The last one may be a bit of a hot take, because of course, with any sort of collecting, there's the collectible aspect of it, but in my opinion, it's more about fun than it is about clout. After all, there's plenty of rare gaming items that aren't even that fun to begin with. This is the best part of game collecting, is everyone is different. You may love the NES and Master System and want nothing to do with PlayStation, or be exclusively all about the Xbox, but that's awesome. It's always great seeing how others use their collections to express themselves, and that's how it should be. Your collection should be tailored to... Don't get me wrong, it's awesome to see somebody have a copy of, I don't know, Stadium Events and Hoop Flinger on PS4. But at least to me, I think it's equally as cool when people have dedicated collections to one game that maybe they loved as a kid, or maybe they have a bunch of one kind of console and a complete library of that console because that's their favorite console. I'm more about passion than monetary value. Now go forth, fellow game hunters and game fanatics. Enjoy the hobby for you and not what somebody tells you to like. I hope you score that game you've been hunting for, and I hope you have a fantastic week. If you've been on the hunt for that sub button, it's right below me, and if you tap it, I hear cool stuff happens. Like, this.
NANI?
And if you want to talk about games while I play games, you can feel free to check out my Twitch or Discord or other socials down below. But of course, as usual, stay funky, stay fresh, and enjoy your next quest. Hey, I'm going a bit off script here, but I just wanted to give everybody a huge thank you for all of the support on the channel. I didn't expect this kind of feedback, especially within the first year of being semi-consistent on YouTube, but I appreciate the huge amount of support and everybody stopping by from my Twitch and friends and family and complete strangers just giving their kind words in the comments and whatnot. Thank you guys so much, and have an awesome new year. See you then.